Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're doing a bit of a 4-in-1 deck profile video. Um, we're going to be doing some gameplay footage on the channel soon, likely tomorrow if I have it edited in time. Um, so I figure I'll do a video overviewing the 4 decks that are going to be in that video. This way you have an idea of what's going to be in them going into watching the video tomorrow. Or if you don't watch it and you just want 4 deck profiles in one video, you can still like the video and give your thoughts down below. But let's get into it. Starting off, we have our first deck here with Hope Esteem. General overview of this deck is we want to gain lots of life in order to make our opponents mill lots of cards. Also, things with these decks is that we built them all in real life. That's how we're doing the gameplay footage as well. So they may have a little bit of downgrade. It's not as pricey as some of the other decks you may see on the channel. If you want the full power version of these decks, it's definitely down there in the playlist as well. But yeah, like I said, that's the general overview of the deck. He's a 2/2 for 2 with lifelink. Mills your opponent anytime you gain life at the end of your turn. So you specifically want to gain life during your turn, not during your opponent's turn, because he'll only mill them during your turn. But let's get into it card by card. Starting off, we have Elixir. Enters tap for 1 mana, but for 5 mana, you can sacrifice it, exile it later, shuffle all non-land cards from your graveyard into your library, and you gain life equal to the number of cards shuffled into your library this way. This is a very good late game card, gaining you a whole bunch of life, and then milling out your opponents for potentially the last cards they have in their library, depending on how many cards you milled out. Water Crystal. Blue spells cost 1 less to cast. It is 4 mana for this, so that ability is not the most important one. We really care more about the other ones. We have, if an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many cards plus 4 instead. So if we're only milling them for 1 with Hope, we mill them for 4 instead. And its 6 cost abilities. Each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. So normally 5, 4, 7 sometimes, but that could still be a lot. And that's normally goes from 5 to 9 if you have the 5 cards in your hand. Wind Crystal, once again 4 mana, reduce white spells by 1. Whenever you gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So whatever amount of life we gain double that, and then we mill our opponents for that double amount as well. It also has 6 mana creatures you control, gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. Helps us gain a little bit of life, helps us deal a little bit of damage if we need to. We're going to tend not to win with damage with this deck. It's going to be one of those come out of nowhere, mill out your opponent's entire deck. We have Nykthos Paragon for 6 mana. It's a 4/6, and whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Like I said, we'll be gaining big chunks of life, so this will put plenty of +1/+1 counters onto those creatures a lot at a time. For example, if we have something that gains us 5 life, which there's a card in the stack that literally just says gain 5 life, you double that into 10. Maybe if one of your other doublers, double it to 20, but say just to 10. That's already a 12/12 onto Hope. Then you attack with Hope, gain that 12 off the lifelink. Double that with Wind Crystal again, that's 24. That's 34 life you gain this turn. That's 34 cards you're milling out your opponent, or 38 if you have the Wind Crystal. For other creatures, we're gonna have other creatures, but this is just what separated things into. With Arid, lifelink, whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter onto Arid. Like I said, we're gonna be gaining life plenty of times. Use plenty of +1/+1 counters. And when Arid dies, put X +1/+1 counters on each legendary creature you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Arid. So this way we get a little bit more power and Hope. Pairs well with Nykthos here as well. And just an overall good ability and good way to gain a big chunk of life when she could swing in with those +1/+1 counters on her eventually. Delivery Moogle. This is kind of just a space filler, and I wanted a few more Final Fantasy cards since it's a Final Fantasy gameplay video. But it's 4 mana for a 3/2 flying. When this creature enters, search your library or graveyard for an artifact with mana value 2 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand. We get Elixir of Immortality. We can get normal elixir. We could get our soul ring. We could get our mind stone. I don't think we have mind stone here actually. Yep, no, we do have mind stone here. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of 1 or 2 mana artifacts that are helpful to us in the stack, so it does help. But like I said, it's also just like a little bit of a filler card. Go Master Mimicry, one of the super strong cards in the stack. XX copy activated ability X times. You may choose new targets. So Hope has the ability to mill your opponents out. We're going to have that happen again and again, depending on how much mana we have at the end of the turn. So hopefully you're going to have plenty of mana, because you're going to need a lot to do that and gain a life all in the same turn. For some more mill options, we have Jace, the Perfected Mind. You make him live a little bit longer by giving them +1, give a creature -3, -0. Or target player mills 3 cards, then if a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, draw 3 cards, otherwise you draw a card. Still, not a bad draw power ability. Or target player can mill 3 times X cards, where X is whatever you want to pay, where normally have him come in for the 3 mana cost and pay the 1 for Xyz, so he only enters as a 4. So that's still 12 that you're milling for, but you could also just use the 2 depending on like where you're at in the game. We have River Turn Monument. 2 mana for 1, you could mill any number of players for 2 cards, or you pay 4, have any number of players mill cards equal to the number of cards in their graveyard. So say if we had a card that, for example, mills our opponent for half their deck, that there goes the other half of their deck. And it's just a fun card as well, that little bit of mill power to start us off. And just having a little bit of a dread on the board, like, you're not going to be taken out yet. It's only target player. Who knows who I'll target? Following that up, we have Ruin Crypt. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. 1 mana, mill 3 cards. It's a good starting game. Good way to start the mill. Good way to get cards into the graveyard for River Turn Monument and other cards that'll care about that mill. Mind Skinner, probably one of the best legendary creatures for mill before Hope came out. I personally like Hope better, but I could see the argument for either. It can't be blocked. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, mill that many cards instead. So since this can't be blocked, swinging with this, deal the 10 damage to your opponent, except you don't. You mill them for the 10 instead. That's a pretty good chunk of mill, especially if you're doubling, say, like Hope's power, or some of your other things are getting this +1/+1 counters. That could be a lot of damage. Traumatize. Target player mills half their library rounded down. I mean, that plus River Turn Monument, that's one opponent's deck. I mean, it's only target player, so it is what it is. But still, that is kind of just fun to see them lose half their deck. With Crumb and Get It, I think I actually took this one out, but it does give a little bit of protection there to Hope. Giving the +2/+2, giving you that little bit of extra life link, which will give you that little bit of extra life gain as well. Riot Control, gain 1 life for each creature opponent controls, prevent all damage will be dealt to you this turn. This one is a bit of a weird one because it does give you protection from your opponent, but you're going to tend to more use it on your turn, just based upon like the amount of creatures that your opponents have. Following that up, we have Arcane Signet. Add 1 white or 1 blue. Same thing with Zori Signet. Commander Sphere, Mind Stone, Pristine Talisman, Soul Ring. All those are just mana sources. I think we need to explain that. Knight of White Orchid searches out land. Always like to see it. Pristine Talisman. It's a mana ability that also gains you a little bit of life. Really helpful there. And then one that's really fun in this is Will, Cyan Appease. And Sapphire Medallion reduces cost of blue spells, which we have quite a bit of. But yeah, his ability is for 3 mana, he's a 2/4, but you can also tap him. Spells you cast this turn that are white or blue cost X less cast, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So say if once again we cast that spell that gains us 5 life. This is now 1 mana. This is 2 mana. These ones are these crystals are now only 2 mana. That's a lot of cost reduction we're having this deck. So for example, gaining 5 life off of Elixir of Immortality. Just pay 2 mana, shuffle it into shuffle your graveyard into your library, and gain that 2 life. 5 life. I don't know why I said 2. But let's scroll on over to the second half of the deck. Hey, it all fits on the screen. There we go. We have Aether Siphon. We have quite a bit of draw power with 15 different draw powers abilities in this deck. We have Aether Siphon, start your engines. Not going to be dealing too much damage in this deck, so you're not going to tend to get to max speed. But if you do, it is kind of helpful. But whenever you draw a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. A little bit of mill power is just nice, and it's a little bit of draw power just for 2 mana there. Alhammarat Archive, 5 mana. If you gain life, gain twice that much life. Instead, if you draw a card, except the first one you draw each turn, draw 2 cards instead. So, like I said, we want to gain lots of life, so let's double it, and let's double it again with that Wind Crystal that we had earlier. Circuit Mender, just gain a little bit of 2 life. It's just helpful, gaining that little bit of life, having a creature on the board, something to protect us. Cloud Blazer, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards. flying creature, good blocker, good draw power, good life gain ability. Dictated Crewfix, at the beginning of each player's draw phase, that player draws an additional card. You know, we can't just mill out our opponents, we can make them deck themselves out as well. Drawing Skull Reaver, flying, double strike, lifelink, you gain life, draw a card. We're going to be gaining life plenty of times, so we're going to be drawing plenty of cards off that. Also, with the double strike, that counts as 2 separate instances of life gain with his lifelink, so that's super helpful there. Fascination, X and a blue. Choose one. Each player draws X cards, or each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into the graveyard. You're either helping them out by making them draw plenty of cards, or you're milling them out. One of the two helps you with your game plan, one of which could help you make some allies. Marina Vendrill's Grimoire. This one's just really fun because enters, you draw, when you cast it, draw 5 cards, no maximum hand size, you don't lose the game for having 0 less life. Whenever you gain life, you draw that many cards. So, say if you have something that just says, like, I don't know, gain 3 life, draw a card, you're just drawing 4 cards now. Or if you double that with, or quadruple it with Alhammarta Archive and White Crystal, right? No, Wind Crystal. That's already, wait, I said gain 3 life, draw a card? That would be 6, 12. And that's a lot. And it's just really one that you mill yourself out with. Okay, Aether Siphon I did actually end up taking out. I got the new Final Fantasy, what's it called? Secret Lair. I replaced this with the Cyclonic Rift that was in that set. Anyway, replace something. Season Weaving, a little bit of draw power, potentially Cyclonic Rift for non-token creatures, really helpful there. You can also choose an artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of it, helping get your River Turn Monument ability again. Yeah, maybe you didn't just do it to one person. Maybe now you have one to do it to everyone after you mill half of everyone's deck. Sphinx's Revelation. Gain X life, draw X cards. 3 additional mana on top of that, but it's still gaining you a bunch of life, drawing you a lot of cards, helping you out, progress your game plan a whole bunch further. Survival Cache. Gain 2 life, draw a card. Rebound if you have the most life, you do it again. It's really helpful there. Just a little bit of life gain, a little bit of draw power. The Gaffer. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, draw a card. We're going to gain 3 or more life. And, I mean, we need to in order to mill out our opponents. So let's draw a card so we can get some more stuff to do. Speaking of ways to gain more life, we have Union of the Third Path. Draw a card. If you gain life, then you gain life equals the number of cards in your hand. If we got this like turn 3, we'll probably still have all 7 cards in our hand. So we normally cast our commander turn 2. This will help us get 7 life, 7 cards milled out of our opponents. Well, of Lost Dreams, if you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. Draw X cards, aka gain that 7 life off of Union Third Path, pay 6 more mana, have those 13 cards in your hand now. Windfall, each player discards their hand and draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. I mean, for example, if we had Marina Vendrell's Grimoire, we could then windfall into however many cards we had, and then that could potentially deck our opponents out. And then it's whenever you lose life, you discard that many cards. Then, if you have no cards in hand, you lose the game. I think you still have to take the damage in order for that to have you lose the game, if I'm not mistaken. Absorb, counter target spell, gain 3 life. Super helpful, little counter spell, little life gain. 2 things that you're going to want in this deck. Counter spell, Indolent's Veto, other forms of counter spells, both of which we have the Final Fantasy art for. Fumigate, destroy all creatures, gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. Hope doesn't need to be on the battlefield when you gain a life, he just needs to be on the battlefield by the end phase, so cast this, recast Hope, you'll probably have enough mana at a certain point. Generous Grip for some more removal, Grasp of Fate, enters the battlefield for each opponent, exile to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. A little bit of removal, at least temporarily, for each opponent. He adds Intervention, destroy X target artifacts or enchantments. That one we're not going to attempt to use. We're going to use target player gains twice X life. Because then we're going to gain, say we paid 3 into this. That's 6 life we're gaining. Double that with Alhammarta Archive, that's 12. Double that again with the Wind Crystal, that's 24 cards we're milling our opponents for at the end phase. Lucky Offering, destroy target artifact with mana value 3 or less, gain 3 life, a little bit of life gain, a little bit of removal. Pet to exile, exile target creature, they get to search for a land, super helpful there. Refute, a little bit of draw power, a little bit of counterspell. Sanctify, A little bit of removal, a little bit of life gain. Stroke of Midnight, and a little bit of removal once again. Basically the same thing as Generous Gift, except you can't target lands, which I tend not to like to target lands anyway. And Swords to Plowshares. Exile target creatures. Controller gains life equals to its power. So, I mean, maybe we'll have, what's his name? The Mind Scanner on the board. That's 10 life we're gaining. Double that and double it. That's 40 life. Restoration Magic, a little bit of a protection spell here. Angelic Accord. If you gain 4 more life at the end phase, create a 4/4 Angel. Benevolent Offering. Choose an opponent. You and that player each create 3/1/1 Spirit tokens. Choose an opponent. You gain 2 life for each creature you control, and that player gains 2 life for each creature they control. I mean, say if we just had 2 creatures on the board, we cast this. Say we just had Hope and another creature, for example. Cast this, we have 5 creatures, we gain 10 life. That's a lot of life. Griffinary, at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 more life this turn, create 2/2 white Griffin with flying. Basically the same as Angelic Accord. We're going to be wanting to gain plenty of life every turn, so let's keep on doing it. And let's get some bonuses off of it. Jadora, Aristocrat Capital. I don't have the lands in this one just because I got lazy making these deck profiles. So I figured, let's just put the important parts in there. This way you know what the deck does. You don't necessarily need to know what the lands are. It doesn't make a difference. Interfox Reservoir. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 1. And Jadora, Aristocrat Capital. Target opponent mills half their library rounded down. I mean, that plus a bunch of the other ways that we had to mill our opponents. Plus, what was that? River Churn Monument. That's their library, all gone. Interfox Reservoir. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 1 life for each spell you cast this turn. So gain 1 off the first one, 2 off the second one. And eventually you pay 50 life and deal 50 damage to target creature or player. It's not just at sorcery speed, so someone has to watch out if we have a lot of life, if they think about attacking us. I mean, they're probably going to want to attack us anyway, but it is what it is. Angel Vitality, if you gain life, gain that much life +1. Also, it's +2/+2 if you have 25 or more life, which we're in Commander, so it's going to tend to. So it's a pretty strong flyer there. Beacon of Immortality, 6 mana, double target player's life total, shuffle this into its owner's library. One thing that's fun about this is that does still count as gaining life. So say if you had this early enough where no one attacked you and you sell 40 life, you double that 40 to 80, you have Alhamrat's Archive, you go from 80 to 120, and then we double that again to, so you gain 40, you gain to 80, you're gaining 160, going up to 200 life, potentially. Chaplain's Blessing. Once again, there's a card, I referenced it earlier. We have a card that just says gain 5 life because we like gaining life. Cleric class, gain additional life anytime you gain a life, or you can put some counters onto things when you gain life. Or you a little bit of recursion if we need it. We're gonna just tend to use the first ability, or the second one. Tend not to get to the last one unless we have the mana and we haven't been drawing enough. Congregate. Target player gains 2 life for each creature on the battlefield. That's not just our creatures, but our opponents as well. So say if we had, what was that card's name? Where was it? Benevolent Offering? Yep, Benevolent Offering. Plus that could be 20 life right there. No, wait, no. Yeah, 10 off this, 10 off that. Yep. Felidar Sovereign. Vigilance, lifelink at the beginning of your upkeep. If you have 40 more life, you win the game. And say if we didn't even have Hope on the battlefield for Beacon of Immortality is a fact. We are at 200 life, and they have to try to get us down from 200 to under 40. That's going to take more than a round. Leyline of Hope. If you gain life, gain that much life +1 instead. If you have 7 or more life over your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. A little bit of stat boost, a little bit of extra life gain. Rock's Faithmender, a third way to double our life gain. And finally, Vesner's Journal. At the beginning of your upkeep, gain 1 life for each card in your hand. No maximum hand size. The maximum hand size we don't tend to care about. But that 7 life that we're going to gain each turn is super helpful there. But yeah, like I said, there may have been a couple cards that just got the late kick out of the stack. But we're going to be posting the video tomorrow, so stay tuned if you could spot the differences. But yeah, let's get into the second deck now. And we're back with the second deck here with Absolute Virtue as the second deck. For 8 mana, again, 8/8 that can't be countered and has flying and protection from each of your opponents. And you have protection from each of your opponents. Remember, I always read that as this creature has protection, but it's just you. You can't be targeted by spells or abilities or anything controlled by your opponent. That is super helpful there. Way I saw this one working is that since the other deck is a life gain deck, This is super helpful in terms of making sure you deal enough damage with that commander damage by pumping it up with plenty of auras and other ways to like just benefit off of those auras in order to deal plenty of damage to that player. It should be able to deal enough commander damage so that life gain won't even matter. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting off with Mirror Maid, enter as a copy of an artifact or enchantment on the battlefield, and undo Spirit Dancer whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield. You may create a token as a copy of it. We do have the undo Spirit Dancer infinite combo in this deck as well, so that could be potentially fun as well. We don't need to deal enough commander damage if we just have infinite creatures enough to KO the opponent. But these ones are ones that just create copies of your stuff in order to make sure you have more stuff to benefit off that. And why not have two of your best things on the board? Burgone Soldier Melodus. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Burgone Soldier Melodus, aka an aura, you put a +1/+1 counter onto her. She's Vigilance, and you can tap her to remove a counter, draw a card. She's only 2 mana for a 2/2. That really helps out having another creature before we get to the 8 mana for Absolute Virtue to have something to put the enchantments onto. Or the auras, I should say. Entity Tracker, whenever an enchantment you control enters, draw a card. We're not going to really care about the room ability because I think there's only like maybe 1 or 2 in here, but it could matter. Feather of Flight, 2 mana, enters, draw a card. Enchant creatures +1/+0 on flying. That already puts Absolute Virtue at 9. That still doesn't put them in enough for a 2-shot, but we'll get to more stuff that will. Mesa Enchantress, draw a card anytime you cast an enchantment spell. It's specifically cast so it doesn't work with Undo Spirit Dancer, where you're just going to keep drawing cards off of getting those copies. Pearl Earl Imperial Advisor, lifelink, enchantment spells you enchantment spells you cast have affinity for auras. aka for each aura we have on the battlefield, our enchantments cost 1 less to cast. So say if we had just 1 on the battlefield that we copied with Undo Spirit Dancer, our Mantle of the Ancients now only casts 3 to cast rather than 5. And the secondary ability is whenever you cast an aura spell that targets a modified permanent you control, aka put an aura on a creature that already has an aura on it, you draw a card. Super helpful there. SRAM, Senior Edificer, whenever you cast an aura, or equipment I guess, you draw a card. Maybe a vehicle. We're not going to really have vehicles in this deck. United Battlefront, look at the top 7 of your library, put 2 non-creature, non-land permanents, mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. The rest onto the bottom of your library, in random order. I mean, we're going to have plenty of cheap, auras in this deck in order to make sure that we have plenty of ways to put plenty of things here onto Absolute Virtue. So let's get 2 of them off of the top 7 of our deck. So we're going to have it. I guarantee it. I don't guarantee it. It's probably not going to happen. Probably always going to get this one, Undo Spirit Dancer, all our creatures probably. Angelic Destiny, enchant creatures +4/+4 and flying. First strike is also an angel. Enchant creature dies, return Angelic Destiny to its owner's hand, making Absolute Virtue into a 12/12, making that enough for a 2-shot there. Or a 1-shot if you have another way to give it double strike. Maybe we'll see something a little bit. Grispoon, enchant creature has +1/+0 and flying. It already has flying, but the +1/+0 is nice. And also this one, you can return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target creature, just for 4 mana. It's just super helpful to have the little bit of recursion there on that one. And Wingspan Strife, +1/+1 flying. Once again, it already has flying, so the ability doesn't matter. But you can return this aura to its owner's hand after you already had it on, like, say, your Burgone or your Pearl Ear, in order to make sure that you, could put it back onto Absolute Virtue if you need that little bit of extra push for that +1 damage to get that 2-shot in. Auramancer, when this creature enters, return target enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. All the auras that we want that were destroyed once they destroyed Absolute Virtue the first time, let's get them back. Mantle of the Ancients. Enchant creature you control. Mantle of the Ancient enters, return all auras from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target creature. Enchant creatures +1/+1 per each aura and equipment attached to it. You can also bring back your boots and all your other things. I don't know if I ran boots in this one actually. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the other side of the deck. You guys aren't at that part yet, but we'll get to it. Redress Fate, once again, another way to return all artifacts and enchantments from our graveyard to the battlefield. We love to see it. Retether, all auras from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target permanent, aka we had them all on Burgone earlier. They removed Burgone. Now we have Absolute Virtue on the battlefield. Let's bring them all back, just now attached to Absolute Virtue. Sentinel's Eyes, +1/+1 Vigilance. That's the problem with this card, is that you tend not to have that many creatures on the board, but you want to make sure that this thing can still block, so your opponent won't be swinging with their big creatures. So let's make sure. Actually, you can't be dealt damage, so you don't really care about like being attacked by them. But still, you want to remove their stuff if it's going to be a problem for you. Cancel, counter target spell, Chains of Custody. It's an aura that you put onto one of your creatures, give it Ward 2, and also remove one of your opponent's things temporarily. Cleansing Nova for a board wipe there. Generous Gift for another source of removal. Negate, another counter spell. Path to Exile for another source of removal. Refute for another counter spell. Sorry, I had to turn my head sideways. Restricted Office and Lecture Hall. Whenever you unlock this door, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Another board wipe, but the ability we care about is a 7, is other permanents you control of hexproof. This way they're not removing all of our auras and not removing Absolute Virtue. Sheltered by Ghosts. Enters, once again, another temporary piece of removal that gives your creature Ward 2, but also gives them a little bit of stat boost and lifelink. Stasis Field. It basically is a sorcery removal. This, Witness Protection, and Unable to Scream all make our opponents from what they were into abilityless creatures. Yeah, that's the word. That basically is an aura on them that counts towards your enchantments, that count towards what you're casting. Swords of Plowshares, another source of removal there. Could be a potential life gain if your opponent's going to remove your thing, you may as well just gain whatever Absolute Virtue's power was. And Winds of Wrath, destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted. aka everything but your creatures, probably. Lunar's Mantle, enchanted creatures +2/+2, and has sacrifice this creature gains flying to unturned. We don't care about the second ability, but given the +2/+2 puts Absolute Virtue at a 10/10, which with all the ones that we had that just give +1/+1. That helps us get to the 11, which is enough for that 2-shot there. Archon and Sun's Grace and Sigil of the Empty Drone both help us create both help us create tokens anytime an enchantment enters the battlefield. So, super helpful abilities off of those two. Let's scroll on over to the second half of the deck. Once again, I didn't include lands in these builds just because I don't think it's really that important to include those in like just these deck profiles, because you'll see it's just more so like what you'll know what's there for the gameplay. Authority Consoles, it's another enchantment that you're going to be putting on the battlefield that'll make your opponent's stuff enter tapped, and you'll do a little bit of life gain. Life gain isn't really that important to you, but just, having your opponent's stuff enter tapped, this way they don't have something to block with from your Absolute Virtue, super helpful there. Heliod's Pilgrim, search your library for an aura, put it into your hand. Moonblessed Cleric also helps you search for an enchantment and put it on top of your library. Invasion of Theros also helps you search out an aura, so that's really the side that we care about. It also has the flip side, but it's not flipping over for me. Oh, there we go. Aspira's Shattering has lifelink, indestructible as long as you control at least 3 other enchantments, which we're probably going to. Whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So a little bit of draw power, a little bit of a strong creature as well. And Light Pause. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, you may cast it. Sorry, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura, with a different name than the aura, and put it onto the battlefield attached to Light Pause. So unfortunately, we can't like double up on things on Absolute Virtue, but still, say if we put what was it called? Angelic Destiny onto it, we could then get something like Twin Blade Blessing, Ethereal Armor, all that glitters, all that helpful stuff that we have in our deck. Crumb and Get It, another source of removal. Sorry, not removal. Protection there for Absolute Virtue, because we want to make sure he sticks around. Hyena Umbra, another way to make him indestructible so he can't be destroyed. Sphere of Safety, makes it so we can't be attacked, because we have to wait till quite some time until we can get Absolute Virtue on the battlefield. So let's make sure that we can do what we can to, not die before then. Swiftfoot Boots to make sure that Absolute Virtue can attack the turn he comes out. Timely Ward, another way to give Absolute Virtue indestructible. And Unquestioned Authority has protection from creatures. Draw a card this way, even if they do have a flyer, they can't block you. Super helpful. Following that up, we have All That Glitters. All that glitters and ethereal armor, and do we have the other one in here? Yeah, all that glitters and ethereal armor both have basically the same ability that give your creatures all that. Wait a second. There's a card that I'm missing in here. Huh. Oh wait, Sage's Reverie. I scrolled over. That also gives your creatures +1/+1 for each enchantment or you control. Um, but that one also lets you draw cards. But these ones help you get super powerful there onto Absolute Virtue. And then we have Flaming Fist to give Absolute Virtue that double strike. Only gives Absolute Virtue double strike, so it doesn't really give anything else it, but still super helpful there. Michiko's Reign of Truth. Target creatures +1/+1 for each artifact or enchantment you control, so same thing as these. It's only till end of turn, but still, that's maybe all that you need to take out one person. Secret Arcade and Dusty Parlor, one of our infinite combos, which pairs well with Andu Spirit Dancer and Archon of the Sun's Grace, where anytime an enchantment enters, you double it. So we have, non-land permanents you control become enchantments. So if you have the part that makes them into enchantments and you cast Undo Spirit Dancer sees itself enter. So you create a copy of it, then you create another copy of it because you keep seeing other copies. It's specifically this card's ability that's once a turn. And Archon of Sun's Grace, it makes it's whenever an enchantment you control enters. So any of those horse tokens that you're making, when those enter, you get another horse, and you get another horse, and you get another horse. Where's the Pegasus? It might be Pegasus. Let's see. 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So it's a hard one to block. And then Twin Blade Blessing, another way to give Absolute Virtue that double strike there. And then we have a lot of ramp in this one. We don't have, what's it called? What's the card I'm thinking of? Smothering Tide in here just because it's an expensive card and we don't have the money for it. But I figured, let's put as much ramp as we can in here with Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Commander Sphere, Felwar Stone, Gilded Lotus. Inquisitive Glimmer is a cost reducer on this one, but still serves a purpose. Loyal Warhound for some lands, Marble Diamond, Mindstone, Petrius Seal, Solemn Simulacrum, Duran Dynamo. Starfield Mystic's a cost reducer, and Mountain Log Tax is our budget version there of, what's it called? What's it called? Why am I blanking on its name? Smothering Tide. Sorry about that. But that's the second deck in the deck, so let's get into the third one. Following that up, we have a Squall Seed Mercenary deck. Once again, I figured we do like a bit of a rock, paper, scissors fourth option in terms of these decks. So what Squall does is he has 4 mana for a 3/4, gives himself double strike when he attacks land or another creature, but it's going to be him. When he deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Once again, I did make these decks in real life, so they are a little bit cheaper compared to what we would build on the channel normally. I'm going to switch this art so that I actually know the name. Where's the... Huh. That's weird. No. Wow. Huh, that's odd. There we go. Cool. But yeah, like I said, we made this a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors type thing. We figured this one, it works really well against Hope because Hope will be milling this deck out. But this deck helps you get stuff back from the graveyard so often that you don't really care what's in your graveyard. And also works well against, what's it called? Absolute Virtue, because there's a few things in here like a Curse Marauder that'll make so that we can remove the Absolute Virtue without having to target our opponent. Or have to worry about the indestructibleness of it. But the only thing is the way this does suffer is it can't really deal enough damage to beat up on the Hope Esteem deck enough. But that's why it can pair up well as that rock, paper, scissors thing there, because it does get that benefit off the removal. But like I said, if you get enough damage off of a Squall, that's enough for the commander damage there. But let's get into it card by card. Starting off, we have Charming Prince. As battlefield, scry 2, gain 3 life, blink a creature. Gain 3 life's nice, scrying 2 is nice. Also, kinds of nice abilities where we have other things that we want to blink, so let's use the blink ability as well. Feast of the Victorious Dead. At the beginning of your end step, if one or more creatures die this turn, you gain that much life and distribute that many +1/+1 counters among creatures you control. We're going to be having things sacrificed, dying, all over the place. So let's get some benefit off that by giving our creatures some additional power and gaining some life ourselves. Albed Salvagers. Whenever this creature or another creature or artifact you control dies, target opponent loses a life and you gain life. Once again, like I said, we're gonna be having plenty of things that'll be having our things get removed. So let's get some benefit off that. A little bit life gain, a little bit damage. Shinra Reinforcements. When this creature enters Mildry, gain 3 life. It's a 3 mana, so you're going to be able to get back with Squall, having that ability happen again and again. Undercity Dire Rat. When this creature dies, create a treasure token. Another way where we could have the benefit off of a creature dying, and, just a creature that we could keep bringing back again and again in order to get that ability off. For some ramp, we have Arcane Signet, Burnish Heart, which once we sacrifice it, we can just bring it back to keep getting more and more mana off that. Commander Sphere, which once we sack that for a little bit of draw power, we could bring it back, and it comes back untapped. Dire Fleet Horde, when this creature dies, create a treasure token. Once again, same as the rat, just bring it back, get another treasure token. Gold Vein Pick, quick creature +1/+1. When it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. With that double strike that we'll be getting off of Squall, it helps us get 2 treasure tokens off of that. Life Insurance. Extort, whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose life and create a treasure token. We're going to be getting plenty of mana off of that, helping us, lose all of our life. Mind Stone for some more mana. Pitiless Plunderer, whenever another creature you control dies, create a treasure token. Once again, treasure tokens are a bit of the way we want to go in terms of mana in this deck, especially with the way the Albed Salvagers works is that when you sacrifice a treasure token, now you get to deal damage because it counts as an artifact dying. Soul Ring, tap for 2 mana. Helping Hand, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Tap this time around, and it's only creatures, so it's a little bit worse than Squall's normal ability, but it does help you out getting some of your potential stacks pieces back. Savine's Reclamation, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then if a spell is cast from the graveyard, you may copy the spell and choose a new target. So, we're getting all of our things back, depending on what we need at the time. We're getting into what will be recurring in a little bit. Spirit Sister's Call, being your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard, you may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it, and bring the thing back. But if it would die again, you'd exile it. So you have to be careful about what you bring back, because you could sacrifice your Undercity Rat to bring back your Albed Salvagers, for example, but then be careful because you can't bring them back again because they'll be exiled. Sun Titan Vigilance, whenever this creature enters or attacks, may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it helps us out with Squall. If we don't have Squall on the battlefield, we get this as well. A Cursed Marauder. Whenever Cursed Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. aka we sacrifice this, they sacrifice something else. We recur this with Squall's ability. First strike, we sacrifice this. It sacrifices itself again before the second attack from the double strike happens. We get to bring it back again, making our opponents all sacrifice 2 creatures each. Vanishing Light. When this enters, exile target permanent and opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. So even if they do remove it, we could just get it right back with Squall to remove that thing again and again. Kadar Commando, 2 mana, sacrifice this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, get rid of those auras from the last deck, or the artifacts from the the Hope deck, and you just keep bringing it back again and again once again. Enlightened Aesthetic, basically the same exact card, except you don't have to sacrifice it. It's just whenever he enters, and so he'll serve as a blocker there as well. Expel the Interlopers, choose any number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to that chosen number. For us, it's going to probably be 4. This way we don't lose Squall. And our opponents are probably going to have more powerful stuff than we have. Godsend, equip creatures +3/+3. A little bit of a stat boost there onto Squall. This way it makes him a little bit more hefty in order to deal commander damage for the win. Whenever a equipped creature blocks or becomes blocked by 1 or more creatures, you may exile 1 of those creatures. aka makes them even harder to block, other than just having first strike off that double strike. And then your opponents can cast spells, the same name as card exile with Godsend. So if we're playing against the Tempest Hawk deck, we're in good shape. Grasp of Fate, enters the battlefield, exile permanent until its card leaves the battlefield. Same thing as, I expelled the interlopers. Where was it? Banishing Light. It's just never remember scroll part hard enough. Lore into the Dirt Path. When it enters, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Tap it to draw a card. Keep bringing it back again and again. Have it be as a blocker because it only has 1 toughness, so it's gonna probably die in a single battle. Ossification. Same thing as Grasp of Faith essentially, except it's attached to a land, so it's gonna be a little bit harder to remove. Path to Exile for a little bit of removal there as well. Just not repeatable, unlike Ossification, Grasp of Fate. Planar Cleansing, destroy all non-land permanents. Another board wipe there. Power Stone and Fracture. Additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. We're going to sacrifice our stuff because we don't care about it getting sacrificed because we'll just be bringing it back. We get to remove our opponent's stuff, which they probably can't bring back. Unless it's their commander, then of course they can bring it back. Seasonal Loss, choose up to 5 paw prints. For 1 paw print, you can do this 5 times. Each player sacrifices a creature. 2 paw prints, draw a card for each creature you control that died this turn. It could be quite a bit depending on if we had the Curse Marauder, which I wish I just didn't have a Fleshbag Marauder available for this thing, or the other like ones that just sacrifice them when they come onto the battlefield. Oh, I'm sorry, each opponent loses X life or X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, which that could be a lot, especially if we're playing against the Hope deck. Sword Splashers, exile target creature, its controller gains life equals to its power. Every deck I have, I think, has some white in it for this video. And Touch the Moonglove. Target creature control gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch till end turn. Whenever a creature dealt damage by its creature dies this turn, its controller loses 2 life. I mean, that's just super helpful because First Strike plus Death Touch means that we're basically just dealing that 1 damage to each of them. And then Westfold Rider. Sacrifice Westfold Rider, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Basically another Kadar Commando ability. Except this one you don't have to pay an additional mana for. But it doesn't have flash. So that's the one thing that's helpful about Kadar Commando over these ones. And then for our stacks pieces, we have Clarion Conqueror and a Kinjali Sunwing. They're both repeatable because they're both 3 mana or less. So, I mean, that's just a way to get in our opponent's way. This way, if they thought they were going to be pulling off their ability to get rid of Squall, now they're not. Scrolling over here to the second half of the deck. Okay, for some reason I thought it didn't. Let me just put this over here. So that's less. Oh, cool. That actually helped out a whole bunch because I didn't realize we had a last stack there. Bit of Revelation. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand. Rest into your graveyard. aka the stuff that we want to get out of our graveyard with Bit of Revelation. Let's put it into the graveyard. Oh, and sorry, I missed a card here. It looks like I missed Voice of Victory, but that just makes it so your opponent can't cast stuff during your turn. Another piece of stacks. I'm surprised it wasn't in a stacks pile. Following it up, though, we have Candy Trail. Whenever this card enters, scry 2, knowing we're going to get off the top, and we pay 2 to sacrifice a gain 3 life, draw a card. It's another thing that we could easily recur here with Squall for a little bit of draw power. Collector's Vault, draw a card, then discard a card, and create a treasure token while we're at it. So, a little bit of ramp there, along with making so that we can put the stuff that we just want to recur out of our graveyard into our graveyard and not have to worry about casting it. I mean, they're going to tend to be 3 mana, so it's probably going to be like the same value as that 2, but, depends what we need at the time. Deadly Dispute, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. More ways to create treasure tokens, more of that ramp, more ways to get more of our stuff into the graveyard, get that extra treasure token off of Undercity Rat, for example. Dire Sight, Surveil 2, aka we can put those into the graveyard if we want to just record them out of our graveyard. Then draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. A little bit of draw power. Dockside Chef, sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw a card. A little bit more draw power, a little bit more sacrifice outlet. Helpful Hunter and Spirited Companion, we have both of those in this deck. A little bit of draw power off of those, super helpful. Especially since we could just keep recurring them and they'll just serve as blockers after that. Because he is being helpful. Look at him with that feather in his mouth. Inspiring Overseer, enters, gain a life, draw a card, so same thing, just gain a life as well. Merciless Resolve, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. You don't get a treasure token, but it is, oh no, wait, this one's 1 less mana, interesting. Morbid Opportunist, whenever 1 or more creatures dies, draw a card, aka 1 we block, 1 we sacrifice, 1 we just play the game, we're going to be drawing a whole bunch of cards. Scion of Halaster, 2 mana. Commanders you control have the first time you draw a card each turn, aka during your draw step. Instead, look at the top 2, 1 into graveyard and 1 into your hand. put the stuff we want in our graveyard. We already did. Oh wait, yep, I did those. Tabarak's Hope's Demise, another Dream Mana card with flying this time. When he has lifelink, and as long as you have 5 more +1/+1 counters on it, uh, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter onto him. And if that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card and lose a life. We don't have many clerics in here. We do, I think. Huh. Oh yeah, there he is. Selfless Spirit. You got one. Cool. But it's mostly just the getting a big creature with flying eventually. Since we're going to be sacrificing so many things to draw so many cards and, just other abilities. Vampiric Rites, sacrifice a creature, gain a life, draw a card. And we have Cynical Loner. Can't be blocked by Glimmers, so if our opponent's running a Changeling deck, we're in a good position. At the beginning of your second main phase, she's tapped. You may search the library, put a card into your graveyard. It's going to tend to be a Cursed Marauder, but if you really want Aven Squire, you can get Aven Squire into the graveyard for that Exalted ability. Alicia's Legacy. Target creature gains Death Touch and Indestructible. We're going to want to keep Squall around, so we're going to want ways to protect him. Bastion Protector. Let's give him Indestructible. Let's give him a little bit of a stat boost as well. I feel like this just belongs here. Aven Squire. Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1. AKA Squall becomes a 4/5 with Double Strike when he attacks alone, making him into 4/5 and 6/7 if we have Bastion Protector as well. Fake your own death until end of turn. Target creature gets +2/+0, and whenever this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you can create a treasure token. More ways to get those treasure tokens, and more ways to recruit Squall, or other stuff that we just want out of our graveyard. Fleet Feather Sandals. Equip creature you control has flying. Why is Sun Titan in here twice? Oh, wait, just moved that pile over. Okay. Gives your creature haste. This way we can make sure we attack with Squall the turn he comes out. So that's going to be super helpful for us. Because I know this card's not one you tend to run, but the flying is helpful there. Also in terms of helping protect against Absolute Virtue in this pod that we're doing. Same with Fleeting Flight. Flying until end turn. Prevent all combat damage we dealt to it this turn. Lightning Grease and Swiftfoot Boots. Another way to give Squall that haste. Necrogen Communion, enchant creature is toxic too. Since we're giving it a double strike, let's give a way to win the game other than that combat damage or the commander damage. Let's make it so that we could take out the other life gain decks in here without, getting in the way too much. Selfless Savior and Selfless Spirit, both of them sacrifice themselves in order to give your creatures indestructible. More ways to protect Squall. And also, another creature get into a graveyard so you can recur it. And Skrull Defector Might, choose a color, another target creature you control gains Toxic 1, hexproof from that color until end of turn, and it can't be blocked by creatures of that color. AKA, most decks in this pod have blue in them, so it makes Squall can't be blocked by any of those. Or, just whatever player you want to swing it on to make sure you can deal that damage and get that recursion. We also have this as a Plankton in the deck. Arcane Signet for some additional mana. Burst Heart we already did. We already did all these. But yeah, that's the third deck there. Let's get into number 4. And then finishing up with the 4th deck in the video. Let's see if we get this one just under an hour. We have Arid Gainsborough because we already did this deck, but we made just like 1 or 2 changes. Lifelink, whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter onto Arid. Whenever Arid dies, put his +1/+1 counters onto all the other legendary creatures you control. But this one, we want to gain life one at a time, one after another, in order to make sure we have enough life in order to survive the onslaught that is our opponents, while having strong enough creatures to swing in on them to deal enough damage to eventually win the game. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. This one we did do as the Arid budget video, so if you do just want this deck, you can just go down in the playlist for like more details on certain things. Angel's Feather, whenever you cast a white spell, gain a life. Like I said, we want to gain 1 life at a time, so this helps us out there. Arcane Signet for a little bit of mana. Cosmos Elixir at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Your life totals over 40. Otherwise, gain 2 life. A little bit of life gain is nice, but a little bit of draw power is nice as well. Fountain of Renewal, at the beginning of your upkeep, gain a life. That's super helpful there. And you pay 3 mana to sacrifice a draw card. I mean, there's never a point you don't want to be gaining life, so unless you really need that draw power, you're going to tend to just let it stay. Marble Diamond for a little bit of extra ramp, same as Mind Stone. Catcher's Monument makes our white spells cost 1 less to cast, or just the creatures at least. And you get a token when you cast them. Paradise does also help out a lot with the, since we have so many creatures that just say when a creature enters, gain a life. That helps to get 2 abilities off of just casting 1 white creature spell. Paradise Plume. When this enters, choose white. Whenever you cast a white spell, gain a life. Add a white mana as well. So it's basically a Marble Diamond plus a what is it, Angel's Feather. Super helpful there for us. Pearl Medallion, cost reduction, super nice. Prism Ring, choose a color, aka white. Whenever you cast a spell, gain a life. Pristine Talisman, gain a life and get a little bit of mana. Soul Ring for that little bit of mana. Wind Crystal. I mean, we don't necessarily need Wind Crystal in here, but if we're going to gain a life, we may as well gain 2 life. And then creatures you control gain flying and lifelink on a turn. That is really our game ender there in terms of, having a giant Machias now flying at our opponent. Wayfarer's Bow for some additional mana, and then Well of Lost Dream. Anytime we gain life, we could pay some mana in order to draw again. Since we're going to be gaining 1 life after 1 life, we don't necessarily have to worry about sinking all of our mana into it at once. We just do it 1 at a time. Why not? Johnny's Primate, whenever you gain life, get put a +1/+1 counter onto him. Daxus, Blessed by Sun. Sorry, this is just like pairs well with air, just because they both do the same thing. But this one, where's the? I forgot what. There's another one in here that does something similar. It's even better. Daxus, Blessed by Sun, get +1, gain a life every time a creature enters the battlefield or dies. Dazzling Angel, same thing, except just when a creature enters. Distinguished Conjurer, whenever a creature enters, gain a life. Essence Chandler, same as the Giant's Primate, get that +1/+1 counter. Exemplar of Light, get the +1/+1 counter, but also get to draw a card. Oh, and also Essence Chandler, when he dies, you get to move his counters onto target creature. So you put them onto Aerith, for example. Guide by Souls, another way to get that additional life anytime a creature enters, and a little bit of extra +1/+1 counters since we're getting those energy counters off that as well. Go here, Greatest of the Eagles, flying. When he attacks, target attacking creature control gains flying to end turn, aka a way to swing in with Aerith for that commander damage, a way to take out the Hope deck, and potentially a way to get over the Absolute Virtue deck as well. Hinterland Sanctifier, whenever a creature enters, gain a life. Impassioned Order, same thing. Keld, Sunmane's Familiar. Whenever commander you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Another way to get some additional +1/+1 counters onto Aerith so that we can make sure we deal even more damage with her or get those onto another creature. Lae'zel, if you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, get an additional +1/+1 counter on it is effectively what this means for our deck. So Keld now puts 2 onto it, and Aerith gains 2 life anytime a creature enters. Life Creed Duo, same as all the other ones that gain a life anytime a creature enters. Linden, Steadfast Queen, whenever a white creature you control attacks, gain a life. So, it's when they declare the attack, it's not necessarily when the attack connects. So, Aerith will get that additional power when she attacks. Lauren of the Third Path, a little bit of removal and just a nice legendary creature there that'll help us draw cards and help us create alliances with our opponents for a little bit. Mangar the Diplomat, whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, you get to draw a card. Super helpful there. And it also has lifelink, and it'll become a big creature with that legendary creature status plus Aerith's ability. Oh, and whenever an opponent casts a second spell, you also get to draw a card. Machias the Lunarch, enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, another legendary creature. You tap him to remove a +1/+1 counter and put it onto another creature you control. Each other creature you control. So you get to remove one of the counters that Aerith put onto him to put a counter onto Aerith, for example. Koala, Johnny's Primate, this is the one I was talking about. Attacks each other attacking creature you control is +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of counters on Kala. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on her, and you pay 4 mana to gain a life. AKA, have her gain like 4 +1/+1 counters just by her entering the battlefield, then gain all those additional +1/+1 counters when Aerith dies. I mean, that's going to be a big swing in at a certain point, especially if you find a way to give it flying. Rosa, Resolute White Mage, being a combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It also gains lifelink till end of turn, so, one of those legendary creatures that doesn't have lifelink that has all those stats. Let's, gain a little bit of life off of this while we're at it. Sinu, Keen-Eyed Protector. Exile it, gain 2 life, scry 2. This way, if we need a land, we have a way to get a land. And whenever a legendary creature you control attacks, if it isn't blocked and Sinu's exiled, put it onto the battlefield, attacking. So, another way to just get it back, another way to get a big creature with flying and vigilance on the battlefield. So, Warden and Soulless Lieutenant, another way to gain life anytime a creature enters. The Gaffer, a little bit of draw power from that life gain. Voice of the Blessed, whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature as long as this creature has 4 or more, has vigilance and flying. As long as the creature has 10 or more, it's also indestructible. So another way to benefit with those +1/+1 counters, and super helpful there. Zach Fair enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. Sacrifice him to move any equipment that were on him, or +1/+1 counters that were on him. For example, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You put those onto another creature, such as Aerith. And then Aerith not only has those counters she already has on her, but the one she had last time that she moved on to Zach, for example. And then moving on to almost the second half of that. So when we did actually put some lands in because we have Radiant Fountain and Adventures in for some additional life gain there. Abiding Grace, gain a life at the beginning of each of your end steps. Another way to power up Air just a little bit more. A Johnny's Mantra, beginning of your upkeep, gain a life. A Johnny's Welcome, gain a life anytime a creature enters. And I think I need to explain it. I think you know why we want to gain life. We want to power up Aerith in order to get those +1/+1 counters onto her, in order to move those +1/+1 counters onto those creatures that we were just going through. They're already consoles. Anytime an opponent creature enters, you gain a life. And they also enter tapped, so that you can then swing in next turn with your Aerith. Case of the Uneaten Feast also makes it so our opponents can't swing in with their Squall or their Absolute Virtue the turn they come down. Case of the Uneaten Feast, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. If you've gained 5 or more life this turn, you get to transform it into a solved version. Creatures in your graveyard gain. You may cast this card from your graveyard until end of turn. Wait. Creature cards? Okay. So you have to sacrifice this, and then they gain the ability. Okay, my apologies. Cleric class, gain additional life anytime you gain life, and put those +1/+1 counters onto those creatures whenever you gain life. So we're not just putting the +1/+1 counter onto Aerith anytime. We're also putting an additional +1/+1 counter onto her potentially, or an additional one onto one of our other creatures that needs it. Dawn of Hope, whenever you gain life, pay 2. If you do, draw a card. You can do it multiple times during the same turn potentially. To sacrifice a creature, regenerate target creature, sacrifice Aerith, regenerate another creature, put those counters onto something. On Sarah's Wings, enchant creatures legendary gets +1/+1 flying, vigilance, and lifelink. Making another creature's legendary is super helpful for the stack in order to make sure we have another creature to put those +1/+1 counters on. Runetail Kitsune Ascendant. If you have 30 more life, transform it into Runetail Essence. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. It can make so we can swing in with ease. And also it's a legendary creature, so, helps us out a whole bunch there. And Tocacious Welcome. Whenever one or more creatures you control with mana value 3 or less enters, draw a card. That's most of our deck, so, let's get a little bit of draw power off it. And here's the final part of the deck. Duty Beyond Death, a little bit of protection there, and those additional +1/+1 counters. Or, if we just want to swing in with all our legendary creatures, we could sacrifice Aerith and put those counters onto everything. Generous Gift for some removal, Path to Exile for some removal, Stroke of Midnight for some removal, Source Splashes for some removal. Riot Control, gain a life for each creature you control, prevent all damage to be dealt to you this turn. A little bit of a fog, just help you survive another turn. Which, I mean, you also have the life to put those counters onto things. And Revitalize, gain 3 life, draw a card. A little bit of draw power is always nice. Ajani's Strength of the Pride. If you have at least 15 more life than your starting left tile, exile Ajani and each artifact and creature your opponents control, aka board wipe them, as you will with Fumigate and Urza's Ruinous Blast, except with this one, you get to gain some life for each creature destroyed, and you don't destroy your legendary creatures. And also, I guess you get to gain a little bit of life off of Johnny as well. But that's the video. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Hope you'll stay tuned for tomorrow when we actually have the gameplay of these 4 together. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe.